All right, welcome everybody. Toby Milroy here again, Vice President for AMS, and thanks so much again for taking this time, this vital time out of your schedule to work on your business rather than just working in your business. And as I've described, I think a million times, and we probably will a million more, there's a critical, component of operating a successful martial arts school or a successful business of any type. You've got to take a step back very often and work on strategy, work on tactics, work on your belief systems. When you're the person in the middle of the fight, our mutual good friend, world champion Jeff Smith used to say, when you're in the middle of a 12-round title fight, round number 8, you're the least objective person in the building about how the fight is going, right? You've been punched in the face for 8 straight rounds. You can barely see straight, much less really be objective about how the fight's happening. So when you go and sit on the stool in the corner, your coach better be in your ear, giving you some perspective on what's happening. So I appreciate everyone's time today. A couple logistics, if I could. Number one, if you could give me a little thumbs up if you can hear me okay, make sure that the volume is good. We've talked about this before, but for all of our folks who are watching, our members and folks who might be part of our Facebook group, I want to make sure that if you haven't had the chance to request a free report on how to leverage social media for your martial arts school, that you take advantage of that now. Just drop your email in the comment area below, and I'll have my team send this out to you. This is basically a primer for martial arts specifically on how to leverage the power of social for your martial arts school. And this isn't just go post a bunch of pictures all over town and hope people show up, right? There's some really practical, pragmatic strategies here that are working really well for our schools. And the one that I would point out that I think is really useful for you is this concept of the triangle of trust. This is where we move traffic into our funnel so that you can communicate with them off social media, which is really where you build the best sort of sales environment for them, right? Social isn't really where you want to do a whole lot of pitching as much as it is building relationships. So just drop your email in the comment area below, and I'll go ahead and have my team send that out to you. For our time today, I'm very honored to have our very special guest with us. I can't tell you how many times Grandmaster Bill Clark has been personally helpful to us here and to our members and to our clients and me personally. Master Clark, you may not know this story, but I attended a marketing boot camp with you, I don't know, 15 years-ish ago or something like that. And you really pissed me off because your schools in almost exactly the same demographic areas that mine were like double my results. And it irritated me so damn much that I decided to learn what the hell was going on and figured out how to sort of follow suit. Grandmaster Bill Clark, somewhat newly minted Grandmaster Bill Clark, is one of the founding voices in one of the world's largest martial arts organization, the ATA, the American Taekwondo Association. And under Grandmaster Bill Clark's advice and tutelage, so many ATA schools have become so successful over the last 20 years or longer that it's just absolutely my honor to have you with us today, sir. And thank you so much for taking this time to help our members and our clients and for all the advice and direction you can help with.
It's always an honor to be here with you, sir. And I appreciate talking to you almost every time. Not every time.
Well, almost every
challenge me almost every time.
Okay. I'll put a star on the almost. I'm not sure when those are, but I'll try to remember that. Master Clark, you've been working on a few things that I think that are really interesting for our folks. First is you've accomplished some things in your schools in Jacksonville and all over the country that a lot of martial arts school operators are really struggling with today. And you taught me this lesson. One of the core components to developing multiple locations is focusing on developing staff, which in many cases means you really have to be focused on adults in your school. We have a wonderful opportunity in the martial arts to develop children, to develop the teenagers up to adulthood. But unfortunately, you got to wait a long time before they can really be good staff members, before they can go out and open locations for you. And you've cracked the code in some ways, in ways that many other martial arts schools haven't. Can you walk me through that? How are you focusing on developing staff and developing adults in your martial arts schools?
I think it's easier if you start in the beginning with me, because when I left Omaha to come to Jacksonville, that was the instruction I was given, to create staff and replace yourself ASAP. And I was given that from Master Dick Reed and Grandmaster H.U. Lee. So when you come here to open a first school and somebody tells you your first job is not white belt, your first job is not creating champions or even making money, your first job is to create instructors and replace yourself. And that's what I've done the whole time. Now, in those days, I opened my school here in 1971. Martial arts was all adults. And a lot of people think, well, adults have left martial arts, but the truth of the matter is martial arts left adults. We started doing karate for kids because it was easier, there was more money, but the adults have always been there. We just ignored them.
Yeah.
As soon as I added Krav and kickboxing back into my Taekwondo program and into my schools, we started attracting adults. And they'll come back in traditional martial arts too, but you've got to wear a different hat teaching adults than you do teaching kids. And if you're not able to do that, you won't create them. But the key to adults is put them on the floor and put them in front as soon as possible. If you just think they can be a student for the next 5 years, you're wrong. My job, when I have any adult student that has a great personality, and I mean from 16 to 60, and I see anybody with a great, not a great sidekick, not able to fight like Master Smith, but a great personality, I put them in front with me, regardless of their rank. Put them in front with me, because the key to longevity in your school is for me to have students. Because the guy that was my first instructor in Omaha, the very first class, he told me, you're going to be one of my instructors one day. And I've told it 1,000 times. It changed my life, one sentence. And my always question would be, what if we told every student, you're going to be one of my instructors one day? And they believed us. You would never have an instructor problem again. And it's so funny that I run into my own people that have been with me for 15, 20 years, and they've lost that vision, because the only job is to replace yourself. Once you get that, you can expand like mad.
Yeah. Had he not made that comment, whether it was intentional or not, now we know Dick Reed, it was intentional, right? But had he not made that comment, look what the cost would have been. Matt Clay, I think what you're describing is actually sort of the reversal of the problem that we had in the 70s and 80s, right? At that time, lots of kids flooded into the schools, and we weren't prepared for them. We taught them like adults.
Right.
Now it's almost flipped on its head. Right now we're teaching adults like they were kids.
Right. I don't do that. And I don't teach kids like they're kids either. I teach a very strict martial arts, and the ones that love it stay with me. I'm not going to water down what I'm trying to create as a student. And I know you can keep them longer if you pop some balloons and stuff. Nothing against that. I just not the way I teach martial arts. That's all. I teach martial arts very strict, by the count. Looks like a military unit. I don't play dodgeball. Sorry if you love dodgeball. I don't play dodgeball. I don't do any of those games.
Yeah, well, I think I would argue exactly what you're describing is actually much more valuable for a martial arts school. When the parent walks in and they're looking for something for their 9-year-old, they're not looking for, Gymboree. I mean, there's plenty of those around, right? Our thing is so powerful because it's so different than their regular day, right? We can shake them out of apathy, sort of that pattern interrupt that Tony Robbins talks about a lot, right? And without that, you're just like another activity. Now, one of the things that you're doing that is pretty attractive to adults and helps retention with adults is you're focusing a fair amount on this evolution of Krav Maga. Kind of walk me through that. What does that look like? How does that work? And how are you curriculumizing that?
I had my instructors study Krav Maga. We had our first seminar here on 9/11 when the big blow up happened in New York. And we've had people in from worldwide. They were great people. And we got a book this big with all the Krav Maga techniques in it. But it wasn't organized like I was used to with Taekwondo. And you taught it as fast as possible, as quick as possible, almost like they were in boot camp. And my average student and parent was 35 to 65 years old, and I couldn't teach them like they're an 18-year-old military combatant. So I had to take it and stretch it out and put it in a format that I could easily explain it and teach it to the civilian population without it being dangerous. And we've managed to do that in a way that it's easy to anybody to teach. It's easy for anybody to learn. And if it's not easy to teach and easy to learn, you can't build. And it's easy to stay in the program because it's incrementally learned, kind of like traditional martial arts. And if you can teach something new all the time, people's interest is changed. We've taken all the traditional techniques in Krav, and we've evolved them with Defense Lab from Europe. And it is the most exciting thing I've ever seen. It's something that every martial artist out there might have heard a little inkling about it, but they don't know what it is. And we're starting to teach instructors online. And for years I bought DVDs and whatever they were, to watch every technique from everybody in the world I could find, trying to get one thing. And I learned also many things like that, including the first jiu-jitsu I looked at was online with Hicks and Gracie. Not online, it was in a DVD or VHS, whatever they were. But so people can learn. Martial artists are very visual. It's easy to learn online if you have an interest. So we developed a product that every Krav school in the world without changing their affiliation, every Taekwondo school in the world without changing their affiliation. You don't have to join anything. Just every week, you get a lot of lessons that will dramatically change your classes, stuff you've never seen before, especially in Krav or traditional martial arts, or even in jiu-jitsu. Our ground stuff with the evolution of Krav is something no jiu-jitsu instructor ever saw, and they would like to learn.
Yeah, you know, I think there are two things in there that are worth unpacking. One is, well, first of all, the evolution of Krav.com is the site that you've set up where folks can actually go and sort of study some curriculum and things like that. And I think there's two things packed in there. Maybe they're worth drilling into. Number one is Krav at its essence was a very exciting activity, a very exciting style of martial arts for adults. It has, you know, all the street self-defense sort of application parts that we really like about it. And a lot of the sort of high impact, high energy classes, exciting, you know, high endorphins, right? Deal. And you get a really great workout. Perhaps even if you were to, you know, parallel it with the traditional Taekwondo class or the traditional martial arts class, it's a lot higher impact, frankly, right? I mean, it certainly helps with that part. How's that experience been with your adult students?
I mean, obviously, Krav is very high impact. I use a lot of target training, a lot of pad training, a lot of bag training. But my Taekwondo, since I kickboxed in the 70s, my Taekwondo training was already going in that direction. I don't teach classes that aren't 30 to 40% impact training.
Yeah.
That's the way you get real feedback. If I want my traditional forms to be better, I make sure people can really hit pads and hit a bag, because you get instant feedback every time you strike the pad. Is my body right? Is my posture right? When I want my forms to be better for my students, I use impact training, and it translates very good. So the Krav gives us a way to organize it for the self-defense, but I really believe in impact training. If it's not 25, 30% of your class, it's not fun, it's not exciting, and they don't learn to hit. And they can't hit in sparring. They can't really beat each other up. I mean, it doesn't make sense. If you look at the greatest fighters in the world that I think are Muay Thai fighters, you watch them train, they never spar with impact. They don't get hurt training.
Right.
They strike with impact on bags and pads and maybe baseball bats and banana trees. But when they spar each other, they're very careful to move in a manner that's very deliberate, target-centric, and they don't beat each other up like we do in traditional martial arts or kickboxing. They have to really fight before the fight. None of that makes sense. I think impact training should be where you get your contact, and otherwise you should be training your eyes, your technique, getting everything right. So that's how my Taekwondo is. It's also how my Krav is. My Krav is different than other Krav because of the language skills my instructors develop, and also because of the way it's organized over a certain length of time that everybody can get it, not just the young athletes.
Yeah, I want to drill into that too. That I think that's the other component. So let me review that again. I think one of the trends, unfortunate trends that I think perhaps we both saw with traditional martial arts, unfortunately, we allowed a fair amount of fitness market share to leave us, because, you know, they come to martial arts class and an instructor who maybe wasn't quite as prepared, maybe didn't quite have the class plans laid out the way they should have, decides to talk for 40 minutes of a 50-minute class, and you don't get a workout, right? What happened there, right? So certainly this thing helps reinvigorate that the fitness messaging, the fitness benefits that clients are going to be getting from the program, right?
Right.
Jiminy Christmas. Okay, so let's drill into the curriculum management component of it, because that's something that I think, you know, I've looked at a lot of Krav organizations and styles and things like that, have had many clients who run Krav Maga schools. One really big Krav Maga school down in downtown DC, and their gap has traditionally been that their curriculum hasn't been very well organized, hasn't been very well structured. And one of the things that you've been a big influence in with the ATA is in the curriculum management realm, right? So probably have a deeper sense of that than probably anybody in our industry. How have you applied that to Krav, and what does that look like?
I don't want you to think that I'm the only one that organized a curriculum, because we had a founding group of people, 4 or 5 of us, from Grandmaster, HU Lee to Master Alamar to Master Reed, that were constantly organizing the curriculum where it could be delivered in a kind of like you take medicine. You don't pour a gallon of medicine down your throat. You take teaspoon by teaspoon.
Right. So
kind of spread it out over a long period of time. In the ATA, we have curriculum from white belt all the way to 9th degree black belt. And that makes us have very high retention in our black belts too, because and one of our grandmasters, Grandmaster Lee, said, there's always more to learn. If you're not learning, you're not still an instructor. because instructors are learning all the time. And that's why I like the Krav, because it was kind of all, here's all the stuff you need in 6 weeks to go in the street in a war. Okay, but my school's got to be open for more than 6 weeks, 5 to 10 years. So I need to teach it in an efficient way without watering down any of the technique, but making it where everybody could teach it. They didn't have to be a 5th degree black belt. And it's organized in such a way that if you come in January to the seminar, you can teach it Monday when you get back to your school.
Yeah, fair point, by the way. So you've got a group of folks coming to Jacksonville. It's at your headquarters in Jacksonville, right?
Headquarters here, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a pretty convenient spot in Jacksonville on January 18th, 19th, and 20th of 2019.
Yes,
and this is essentially like a certification process where they learn the entire curriculum. Is that how that works?
Most people who come already have a curriculum because they were Krav instructors. Most people take Krav. There's so many great Krav organizations. So it's mainly people from them that want to teach better or have an organized way to test or have an organized way to do Krav as a business, not just because they love Krav Maga. Krav already did. They stripped it down to where you have the essentials of self-defense. I love that. And so many guys have created great curriculums around it. None of them with the business of martial arts in mind like I did. Because mine is made where a guy in 3 days, if you already have some basic skills through martial arts, can learn to be a fairly efficient sounding and deliver the product. Because it's all, just the layout is so unique. I hate to give it away here, but if you come, you'll know everything. There's 3 certifications, and somebody recently said, he made a smart ass remark on Facebook. I don't know how anybody can learn to be an instructor in 3 days. I don't know either, but they used to do it in 7 and it wasn't organized at all. So it's just very well laid out. And the evolution part gives you something in your school that no other Krav school has. That's what's really unique, is the evolution part of it, because theirs is like boom, 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 run away. But if you look at any video, I mean, I can go on YouTube right now, Facebook every day. There's very few one-on-one fights.
Right.
People are attacking in groups and gangs and acting like I'm focused on you, and a guy from over here hits me, and it's all over before I know what's going on. The evolution of Krav addresses that every time there's any altercation. And that's what's so unique about it, that I'm amazed myself. And I met it at one of the conferences in Orlando, actually. One of the companies had a conference down there. I happened to sit by the creators of the Defense Lab, and we put the Krav and Defense Lab together. It's been 12 years in the making, and it's fantastic. It's something nobody's seen, and everybody can teach if they have a desire.
Yeah, well, and I think it's one of the solutions to the problem that a lot of schools are dealing with. Again, we've kind of left the adult market, right? Like yoga has gone from about 3 million to about 36 million practitioners in the last, I don't know, 8 or 10 years. And a lot of those guys might have been martial arts students at some point. I mean, they might have been prospects for us.
When I opened up my school, there were less than 3,000 yoga schools in the United States. Now there's over 30,000. And there's not 30,000 great martial arts schools. No, we already had the stretching market. We should have done everything yoga does. They got all the adults. We should have them. It's better, and you learn something useful the rest of your life. I'm not putting yoga down. I also do a lot of stretching and do yoga.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. I think it's wonderful. I think the program is wonderful, but that market share was ours. We owned the space. Right. We owned the mind share, but we gave it away, You mentioned something, Grandmaster Clark, that I think is pretty important for everybody to be thinking about. And I'd like to ask you to expand on it. You're talking a little bit about the language of teaching and the skills that the teachers actually have to have in order to be able to deliver this kind of curriculum. And I would amplify that to say delivering any type of curriculum, right? But what's your perspective on that, and how might a school operator be thinking about that, right now?
Well, before someone comes to the certification, when someone registers here online, they should do it as soon as possible. Comes and registers in our office. We send them the language homework first. First, you got to learn all the commands and what each command means. That alone, and it's a small part of our language skills, makes you from a good instructor to a fantastic instructor, because you're able to articulate why you're doing things, not just what you're doing. That's the biggest deal. A student knows, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this drill? And it's very short and brief, concise. It's the most professional language I've ever seen in the martial arts. And not because I wrote it, because my guys all got together and we wrote it together, because it wasn't easy to transmit the information except through technique. And for adults, they really want to know what and why they're doing, not just what technique. And when they get it here, it's much easier for me now to get it up here. Whatever I'm doing, it's much easier to get. I want to know why. I don't just want to, okay, down block, down block, down block, down block, kick the pad, kick the pad. It's not like that for adults. Adults really want to have an intellectual knowledge without a bunch of talk. I'm not talking about a long lecture. I'm talking about brief language skills that they can repeat back, and now they know why you're doing everything in class. That's one of the components. The others is something called a knowledge domain. Every week for 36 weeks, we will cover a small part of the knowledge you need to defend yourself in the street. Very concisely, we'll go through questions. It's almost like a mat chat, except it only deals with self-defense. We're not trying to be Tony Robbins and do any of that stuff. We're not doing that at all. We're saying, this is what happens before contact is made. Next week, it might be, this is what happens after contact. This is what happens if you're knocked to the ground, how you feel, how you act, any questions, what you should do. Every element of self-defense is covered, and you become an actual expert. And we just give you all the scripts. You write them on your mirror, you read them, and you ask questions on it. It's designed where each knowledge domain lasts a week. Nobody has anything like it. Any Krav in the organization of the world can come and learn it and help and make their Krav organization better. That's what the evolution of Krav is for. It's not for an association I'm creating. It's just the warrior training system is just to help other warriors in their training. That's all. I'm not trying to start an association. I already belong to a great association. I'm just trying to help other instructors because nobody practices teaching. All they do, they practice techniques, they train, they get good kicks, or they don't, they get old. Nobody practices teaching and how to teach. That's the missing element.
Yeah, completely. And I think that translates into, virtually any style. I mean, whether it's the children market or the adult market, I mean, teaching skills are kind of one of those pieces of the puzzle that is often, over neglected in our industry, but it makes such a big difference, right? Like, I mean, I could be working with a martial arts school who has like an 11% a month dropout rate, and a school right down the street, same demographic, same market, same style, whatever the case might be, and they're dropping out 2% a month. And the difference in many cases is what you're describing. When the instructor on the floor is communicating with their students, the experience is so different. I mean, it's not just drill instructor, although there's a place for that. It's not just drill instructor. It's drill instructor with a purpose, and they understand the methodology behind what they're doing. And to push back on the Tony Robbins bit, I mean, in the family character part of the market, if you can get your instructors to sound like Tony, well, that's pretty damn good, right? They start using that vocabulary. They start using that type of language. And in this environment with adults, they want to know what this is going to look like when they watch that YouTube video and their head hits the concrete the first time, right? That's fantastic. Yeah. Nice.
The language, I mean, anybody can sound like a coach, but to be a real instructor, you have to understand the essence of self-defense, the essence of what really happens emotionally.
Yeah.
When someone gets in your car with a gun. I mean, these things, and you have to talk about it and ask questions about it long before it happens. And then, I mean, the technique is one thing, but it's a small part of the Krav we teach, because most of the Krav techniques and all the associations, they all got, you go look at all the video, it all looks the same. But the application and what happens in the middle of it when you get hit is something none of them address. You're in the middle of defending against a knife and the guy hits you in the back of the head. You're in the middle of defending against a choke or a side headlock and somebody kicks you in the face. None of them address that. They're not prepared for the real streets today. The streets today are so different than when you and I were kids, when I was a kid especially. It was two guys stand up, but now there's never going to be one person hitting you. Everybody's hitting you at the same time, and they don't have any feeling at all about hurting you, where you may be civilized.
Yeah.
You don't know how to respond in that environment, you got a big problem coming.
Yeah, and
you see some great stuff on, go to the Evolution of Krav, sign up for 30 days free, and you'll see, wow, I never heard this before.
Yeah, and I mean, the evidence is all around us. Like you said, just go to YouTube. I mean, rec.com. I mean, it's unbelievable. Like, I don't know if we're devolving perhaps as a society or what the case is, but actually, Master Steve Hayes and I just had a chat yesterday, talked about exactly the same thing, where his style is much more fluid and less rigid compared to like a traditional block punch type of a scenario. For that exact reason, you might be on level ground, you might be on concrete, you might be on gravel. This is all different, Very interesting stuff. While we've got you on the phone, your perspective on running multiple schools is probably, more deep than most anybody in our industry. And you've already kind of revealed one of the keys to developing a large multi-school operation. That's being focused on developing instructors and developing on staff. What might you think would be the big, maybe 2 or 3 lessons over 40 plus ish years of running multiple locations that might benefit somebody who might be in that realm?
I think the first question I ask people, and nobody ever gives me a decent answer, is what does your school look like when it gets done?
Right.
When this project is finished, what does it look like?
Exit strategy.
Not just what's it look like when you finished. And if I ask a martial arts instructor, how much money do you want to make? They'll all go, I want to make more. How much work do you want to do? I want to do less. None of that has anything to do with running the martial arts school. I can tell you exactly what my school looks like. It's got 225 students. It generates $40,000 to $60,000 a month. It pays one instructor $100,000 to $200,000 a year. And it's a career opportunity for one full-time person and maybe another full-time person, 1 or 2 part-time people.
Yeah.
I don't try to run 1,000 students. My model looks like 225 students and 2,000 to 3,000 square feet. And I know when a school is done. When they have 200 active memberships, that school is done. We're in maintenance and open another school. I don't keep trying to grow so I can tell somebody I've got the most students in this space. I'm not trying to prove how much money I make per square foot, although that's a great retail concept. Yeah. My model looks like 225 students. If you're not there, your model's not done. So then how long I got to do this? Until you get to 200 active accounts. That's about 225 active students. When I have 200 active accounts, that school is finished. And it's time to open up another school in that area, and they maintain that. I'm not trying to grow for the sake of growth. I'm not trying to beat somebody else. I'm in competition with what I can create an instructor that has a great lifestyle like me. What I want for myself, I want for them. And that means I know the model. The model is not never-ending work for the rest of your life.
Right.
It's finish the model in 1 to 5 years, maintain that model. Don't overwork it. Don't overthink it. Don't try to compete with somebody else. This is the model we run. There's no other model. And it works every single time and almost every single demographic if the people follow the scripts. So that's one thing I think is know what your model is, know what it looks like when you're finished. Most people don't. They say, what do you mean when it's finished? And I'm never going to get out of my exit strategy is to die somewhere after giving a great meeting or teaching a class. Yeah. That's my exit strategy. And I hope I go the right way. That's it. That's my exit strategy. I wouldn't retire. I'm on vacation now. What am I going to stop doing? Yeah. I don't know what I'd do if I mean, martial arts is not work. Not that I'm teaching every class, but in 1976, Master Reed talked me through my retirement plan. I retired the Monday I got back from Las Vegas talking to him. Yeah. And that's the secret. I mean, know what your model is, know what you need to retire. I knew my per diem at that time was less than about $300 a day I needed to be able to spend. My per diem now, even 42 years later, is only $1,000 a day. That's my per diem. I want to be able to spend $1,000 a day. Now, his per diem before he passed was $10,000 a day. But he wanted to do more things than I do. I want to live on vacation, and I have since 1976. That's the key. I don't need to take a vacation. I'm on it.
Well, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, there are still segments of our industry, and you know as well as I do, that, for some reason think that their personal lifestyle isn't supposed to be what this is all about. And I mean, I get, we need to contribute to our society. We want to create better people. We want to, make a huge impact in what we're doing with our students and with our families and with, the staff that we employ and all this stuff. But, God, if it kills you in the process, like, what good does that do us? So I think like sort of starting, as you described, starting with what the model is and how does that facilitate your lifestyle and the lifestyle of those who you're, responsible for, I think is a really good place to start. I think too few people think about it even, When
I ask them, they don't know. I say, what's your per diem? What do you need to be able to spend per day to make your life complete? They go, I don't know. And if you don't know your per diem, you don't have a chance of ever being happy. Once you do, there's no need to overwork it. No need to overwork it. I know what I want for my guys. I know what I want for my students, what I'm trying to produce. The main thing is if you know what kind of students you're producing, you know what your school looks like when it's finished, and you know your per diem, there's nothing else to know. I mean, everything else is logistics. Everything else is logistics. And there's 1,000 people out there that can tell you, and they all work. I don't know if they all take you to my model, right, but they all take you to some model. And if the guy telling you do this, do this, do this, doesn't tell you what your school looks like when it's finished, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I think it's huge. I mean, like this, Tony Robbins calls it the Niagara syndrome, right? You just jump in the river and it takes you wherever it decides it wants to take you. And holy shit, right at the end, I realize I'm heading off the falls, right? Yeah, the destination is critical. And like, which by the way, your model is exactly parallel to mine. I mean, 240 students, $500,000 a year location. Some do a fair bit better, some, about that, that way the staff there can make a great living. There's plenty of profit to, account for things like 2008 and 2007, but yeah, that's a big deal. That's very useful. God, this has been great. I think I've got about a page and a half of notes here. Maybe one last bit, if we're talking about multiple schools and if we're talking about what the end of this thing looks like, being such a significant influence in, again, one of the largest martial arts organizations on the planet, you've had the opportunity to work with school operators of every type and size and creed and you name it. If I were in the bottom 50% of the industry, let's say I've got less than 100 students and I've been doing this for a fair amount of time and I'm looking to break through, I'm looking for what, gets me to the next level. Where do you think you would start with somebody in that category?
I would start with the front door. If you can't get people through the door, you can't build a business. You can't make a profit. If you don't understand, I mean, I started my school with what everybody hates is VIPs. I stood at the gas station 3 blocks from my house and I VIP'd every morning before I went to work out. When I had 2 appointments for that day, I stopped VIPing. I did it for about 4.5 years. Yeah. I built one of the largest schools we've ever had. The largest testing I had at a school in Atlantic Boulevard that was 935 square feet on the floor. We tested 742 people at one testing. Oh. And my instructor, Grandmaster H.U. Lee, sat there all day long without taking a break. Anybody who knows traditional martial artists, I'd say, sir, they're all standing outside in the dirt and it's hot. It's in Florida. It's hot. Can we do more than 4? He'd go, 4. I was big for him. He said, 4. 3 hours later, I said, sir, we just got through the White Orange. And he said, we're going to do 4. I said, do you need a break? He said, no, take a break if you need it. He never went to the bathroom. He never ate. He never blinked. He never stopped testing. So it took about 11 hours. He never, I said, do you have to go? He said, yeah, but I don't want them to know.
That's right.
He has so much discipline. And I learned so much from that man. So, the ATA built because of great people, not because of me. I would just happen to be, if you ever get up on a good wave, it rides a long time. I caught that wave right in the beginning. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So we're, absolutely. If I'm under that 100 student mark, if I'm kind of, on the bottom half of the niche, so to speak, I'm definitely starting at the front door and, driving. I'm sorry.
You can't afford to do anything else.
Right.
Except recruit, whatever that means to you, whatever you can do. I'd spend 8 hours recruiting, 2 hours teaching.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think there's a big mistake. Well, first of all, I think hustle solves a hell of a lot of problems, right? Almost any challenge that you're dealing with in the school, doing something is always better than doing nothing. And sometimes you just got to, take a step out of the door of the school, take a left, find the first door and start knocking, right? And you, me, pretty much anybody I can think of, I'm thinking Dave Kovar, Jeff Smith, pretty much anybody I can think of has been not only willing, but has done that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know anybody. I don't know many people who landed in a new martial arts school and all of a sudden had, 240 students and had, 250,000 to the bottom line and didn't have to hustle.
Right.
So I don't think that's a real thing.
I think if you start with cards in your pocket and you make appointments for every day by being outside of your school. I mean, if you walk around, you meet somebody and give them your card and make an appointment. And people don't understand. I break, and I had this meeting with my people on Monday. I try to break it down to the lowest common denominator. I run my business by appointments. And the common elements of an appointment are it has a specific time, has at least 2 people, and we both know the purpose of the appointment, and every appointment's confirmed. Now, if you consider you got 40 students coming to your class tonight at 6 o'clock, in my mind, you have 40 appointments. I don't know if you got a purpose for all those students. I don't know if you confirm all those appointments, but you should. And if I've got 10 students, I damn sure should confirm them because that's all I've got to work with. And I need to know my purpose for each student in the class. That's what an appointment has. every single thing, like this appointment today, you confirmed it before we met today. Without that confirmation, I had already totally forgot because 1,000 things happened. And I used to come to my school at 6 o'clock in the morning to teach doctors at private lessons. I only showed up one time and they didn't show up before I learned to confirm appointments, every single one. And if you look at everything from the date with your wife on Friday night to the next staff meeting as an appointment, and you treat and you know the purpose, you know who's going to be there, you confirm it with everybody, your life will be different. You don't have to micromanage it just to have an appointment tonight with 120 students. Some are coming at 4, some are coming at 5, some are coming at 6. All the ones coming at 4, I'm going to confirm. I'm going to tell them the purpose. Tonight, we're going to do this. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody. Because if they're not confirmed, they don't show up, just like other appointments. If you don't treat your school like you have an appointment, you won't show up till 5 minutes before class. But you really have an appointment about 11 o'clock to come in and start doing all the things necessary for a school.
Nice.
The problem is, you're the owner and you call in, you know you're lying. That's the biggest problem.
Yeah, that's strong. You know, it's kind of a long story, but the short version of the story is my wife has this salon that she likes to go to, and it's beautiful and wonderful and all that stuff. And I'll tell you what, they do not have a chair sitting empty ever in that place, because once that hour is gone, once that 90 minutes is gone, it's never replaced again, right? So they're text messaging and emailing and voice broadcasting, and they're calling, and oh my God. Well, if they can do it, I mean, and the customer's only worth $400 there,
right.
You know, our customer is 3,000 to 5,000, you know, or more. Why the hell aren't we treating them that well, right? I mean, that's pretty interesting.
I went in to have a procedure at Mayo Clinic that was a life and death procedure if I don't show up. They confirmed me 2 weeks before, and this is life and death. They confirmed me about 8 times before I got there.
Yeah.
And I mean, life and death people don't show up for their appointments. Monday night if they were out drinking all weekend. It's got to be important. If you treat every single thing you have in a day like an appointment, including your lunch. I have an appointment for lunch at 2:30 today. I know the purpose is for me to eat nutritionally so I can try to stay somewhat young at 71. I know the purpose of the appointment. I know who it's with, and we're going to confirm it. I mean, so life is an appointment with health or not. If you treat it like that and you know the purpose, this thing is easy. Our schools are so easy. And I'm going to have this meeting for the next 6 months with my staff, because I found out some of them forgot the purpose of living life like it's an appointment. That way you have purpose.
It's 2 o'clock.
It's 2 o'clock. Fantastic. Yeah. If you have a plan, that's just a dream, but when you put it on the calendar, it makes it real, right? Like,
and you confirm it. And you got to know why you're going to work. I mean, some people just show up. They know I'm a millennial. I get paid. That's why I'm showing up. Doesn't work many places.
Yeah. Thanks for the help. Yeah, exactly. No, I think that's exactly right. Very interesting. You know, very interesting. Well, Grandmaster Clark, I think we've accomplished a lot of ground today. I think if I've got, 2 pages of notes here, I think our listeners might have a couple. Certainly some takeaways I think that are pretty useful. I think you said it 4 times so far that I've counted. Our business is really pretty easy, right? It's really pretty simple. We've got like new students. We have to go find people who might look like martial arts students or might, have an interest in martial arts, and we have to talk to them and get them to come into the school. And then we have to have a good impact with them when they get here. And then God willing, if they enroll, we better treat them well, right? We better have an exciting curriculum and teachers who are skilled and empathetic and who are great at dealing with them. And then we have to be building something that we have purpose with, right? We have to be building a business that serves our lifestyle and a business that serves us. And that doesn't come without hustle, and doesn't come without systems, and doesn't come without work. But God, it's pretty easy. We're not dealing with some macroeconomic thing that we can't control. This isn't, if Facebook died tomorrow, it doesn't affect my martial arts school much. If Amazon kills Sears as of today, Sears filed this morning, doesn't make an impact on me, right? I'm still going to go find, 4 new students for appointments today. Right. So, I think that's pretty enlightening. Any last item that you might leave us with before I respect your time more?
I think that if you understand the real purpose of the business, why you're teaching, and it's not for money, because money happens automatically when you do all the simple things. You don't worry about money when you do everything. When you don't do everything, that's when you better start worrying about money. So I think if you know your per diem and you're living on vacation, you're never going to burn out. but you got to know your per diem. You got to know what your model looks like when you finish, and it's got to be worthwhile for you. I mean, you got to have an appointment with yourself for the future. What's it look like? I know what mine looked like. I've been living it since 1976. I'd say live on vacation. How well do you plan your vacation? Pretty intensively, right? What's the last one you did? You know, every day is like that in the martial arts business when you do it right.
Yeah, and you're living on vacation. So what's the difference, right?
I don't need to take one. I never want a job I got to take a vacation from. That's the dumbest thing in the world, in my opinion, because our business works anywhere. You've always wanted to live in France. Guess what? Go there now. You'll need martial arts in some places, and you can make a living everywhere in our business. And once you know what to do, and you do it with purpose, I mean, money is automatic if you do the things that we know to do. Just some people knew them and don't do them anymore. I have people now that say, well, you know, if you do what you told us 40 years ago, you'll go out of business. I say, well, still doing almost 10 million a year. I'm doing exactly with a few changes of the way I treat business. Treat it like an appointment, know my per diem, try to make my instructors live the same lifestyle I live. That's simple.
Yeah, let me echo and amplify what you're describing. I think, you know, tactics change, right? Tactics change as technology changes, and you know, the internet didn't exist. You know, Google is different. You know, things change, but the principles never change. And if you boil it down to the level of simplicity that you're describing, I think it alleviates a lot of stress and headaches from a lot of school operators' lives, because if you keep it that easy, if you keep it that simple, then the tactical part is easy to deal with, right? We're still dealing with human behavior. We're dealing with people who have a need, want, pain, or desire, and they want to try to solve that. And we have a product or a service that solves so many of those things and produces such amazing results for so many different types of people that you can pop one of these things up anywhere you want to and live the lifestyle you choose to live. So
our business works if you don't compliment it. A lot of people complement it and complicate it so that they can have something to tell you.
That's right.
Somebody said, Master Clark, when are you going to change? I said, the problem is the truth doesn't change that much. And that's the real problem. It doesn't change that much. Of course, there's Facebook and Instagram and with telephones. I mean, there wasn't even telephones when I first opened up. Nobody had a phone in their hand. This is the biggest change in the whole world right here. And that means you can reach everybody anytime, all day long.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We've spent a lot of time talking about that over the last couple of years. The mobile phone, the ability to, you know, we've cut out the middleman in martial arts, right? We used to have to go through, you and I, you did a lot more of it a lot earlier than I did, but we used to have to go through Cox Cable to get a television on commercial. We used to have to go through Clear Channel to get radio commercials to run. We used to have to go through, you know, Bright House or the Yellow Book, for God's sakes. Now it's all kind of like democratized. It's now sort of here in the palm of our hand. Now you have to crack the code to get to them, but now we can go direct to customer, direct to consumer. Well, that's what we've been doing in martial arts forever. You go out and stand on the corner with a VIP card. This is the same thing. The principle hasn't changed even a little bit. The tactic has, right?
I think you still need people through the door. If you understand that, you don't get to go and teach if you don't have people coming in tonight. If I don't have appointments tonight, there's no need for me to show up. That means appointments for students, appointments with my staff, appointments for new students. And if I treat every one of those like an appointment, that means they're important. I'll show up at least 30 minutes early, because 30 minutes early is on time is late.
Right.
I understand that. Everything's possible. And that 30 minutes gives me just the amount to get mentally ready for whatever appointment it is. Class coming in, I got these 10 students. I know all their names. I know this person's. We taught the last class that everybody quit.
That's right.
If you knew they were going to quit that day, what would you do different?
That's exactly right. I think Jeff Smith's analysis, or his description of that, is if you picture every student who walked. Now, some people will take this negatively, but if you picture every student who walks in the door and they have a binary mind, and their mind is either I'm going to quit today or I'm going to be a black belt today, right? Or I'm going to earn my black belt at this school. You know, wouldn't you teach classes a little differently, right? Wouldn't you think about those ones who have I'm going to quit today in their mind?
Yeah, I use a rating system. Next time we talk, I'll go over it for you. I've taught a lot of people. If you use it, you'll know who's going to quit this month. And you might treat them at least differently.
Right.
You'll know who wants to be an instructor, and you might treat them differently just by rating this. The people aren't willing to spend 2 hours to save their students. Not only the people out there, my own people. I try to force it, sit down with them. What's the rating on this student? The good ones always know. And the ones that can't figure out why they don't have it all together, they don't know.
And one location may be converting, 80-85% from intro to enrollment, and the other school is only converting 50. But when you really look at it, it's that they really care about the students. They've disciplined themselves to really know everybody's story and to really be into the person, not just the process, right? So yeah, I think that's awesome. Yeah, we should cover that next time.
Well, without the process, it's all hard.
Yes.
Once you get the process rolling, you just don't change it. You don't try to figure out some magic thing to do this month. I go to a convention, so now I do this. No, this is the process. You keep doing it. It always works. And people want to change it. And I always think people want me to sprinkle pixie dust on their staff so they don't have to do what's necessary. It's simple. It's a process. It's fun once you realize it, and it's very profitable. And it's rewarding personally. For me, I love it when my staff has everything they want in life. That's the key for me. Not the students are their problem. The staff is my problem.
Yeah, no, I don't remember where I came up with this idea, but I remember I've written some checks for down payments on townhouses and, cars and things like that for my staff members. And I mean, nothing makes you more proud, right? I mean, this was somebody who started with me when he was 16 years old or 17 years old. And, 10 years later, he's running a location. He owns his own business. He's successful. I mean, that makes you feel about as good as it gets. Right. Grandmaster Clark, thank you again so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. I think this has been great. I think our folks, I think it's critical for our folks, especially who have been running martial arts schools for any period of time, think about what the bigger vision should look like, right? They think about, is it even possible to run 20 locations, 30 locations, 50 locations? Is it even possible to build an organization that has the type of impact and influence that ATA has with obviously your help? So I think this is very, very useful for that, for just perspective purposes, if nothing else, but also a lot of tactics I think that people should, be thinking about right now in their martial arts school. And again, if you're really interested in especially serving the adult market and energizing your classes with more high energy curriculum and pieces of curriculum and components that can really help you with adult retention and adult attraction, we'll check out theevolutionofkrav.com. I'll put a link here somewhere. And also, if you're interested in the certification process of actually learning that material in a deep way, January 18th, 19th, and 20th, 2019 is the Masters Gathering. So I'll make sure that we put the links where people can find them and perhaps have a chance to come and train with you. So thank you again, sir, so much. I really appreciate it. And thanks again for all the help.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And thanks everybody again. As I always say, as we sign off, strategy is your job, right? You're the CEO of your organization. Nobody else is going to do it for you. So you have to take time out of your business and focus on big think, focus on the model, focus on how this is all going to work and roll out for your specific business. So thank you again so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And we'll speak again very soon.
Thanks,
everybody.
Bye.